Cole woke up in a cage made of black metal. Her head hurt badly, and her vision was blurry. She blinked several times and tried to remember what had happened. The memories came back slowly. She had been on patrol with Shaw on the forest moon. Their shuttle had been flying low over the trees when something hit them. She remembered the explosion, the spinning, the crash. Then she remembered the creatures, tall figures with scales and 4 arms pulling her from the wreckage. She looked around now and saw that her cage was hanging from a thick branch high above the ground. Strange trees surrounded her, with bark that glowed faint blue in the darkness. 2 moons hung in the sky, casting silver light through the leaves. Below her cage she could see movement. The creatures were there, walking between large tents made of animal hide. They were massive, at least 8 feet tall, with bodies covered in dark green scales. Each one had 4 muscular arms and a head like a reptile. Their eyes glowed orange in the moonlight. Stayed quiet and watched them. She counted 12 of the creatures moving around the camp. They carried weapons that looked like spears and curved blades. Some of them wore necklaces made of teeth and bones. She heard a sound to her left and turned her head. Another cage hung from a nearby tree. Inside it she could see. He was not moving much, and even in the dim light she could tell he was hurt badly. Blood covered the side of his face and his breathing was shallow. Tested the bars of her cage. They were solid and would not bend. She checked her body for injuries. Her ribs ached, probably bruised from the crash. Her left arm had a deep cut that had stopped bleeding, but she could move everything. Nothing was broken. She spent the next hour watching the creatures and learning their patterns. 2 guards walked the perimeter of the camp. Others sat around fires, eating meat and making sounds that might have been laughter. They seemed relaxed and confident. Near midnight, one of the creatures approached her cage. This one was larger than the others and older. Its scales had turned gray in places, and scars covered its arms. It wore a metal device on its chest that blinked with small lights. The creature studied her with its orange eyes. Then it spoke, and the device on its chest translated its words into English. "You are awake, small one. Good. I am elder of this hunting pack." Said nothing, she just watched him. Tilted his head, seeming curious about her silence. "You do not scream. You do not beg. Other prey species do these things when they wake in our cages." "Would it help if I did?" asked. Made a sound that might have been a laugh. "No, it would not, but it is what we expect. Your calmness is strange." He moved closer to the cage and wrapped one of his 4 hands around a bar. "I will explain your situation, human. My people are we are hunters. It is our purpose, our religion, our entire way of life. We travel the galaxy seeking worthy prey." "And you chose humans," said. "We chose you," corrected. "You and the male in the other cage. Tomorrow, when the sun rises, you will be released into this forest. You will be given supplies, then we will hunt you." Kept her face calm even though her heart was beating faster. "What supplies?" 10 rounds of ammunition for your weapon, a knife, the clothes you are wearing," showed his teeth in what might have been a smile. "We are fair hunters. We give our prey a chance." "How generous." "Indeed, the hunt will last until you are dead or until 3 planetary rotations have passed. No prey has ever survived longer than 1 rotation." Leaned closer. "Your species is soft. Your skin tears easily. You have no claws, no fangs, no armor. You are not built for survival." Looked at him steadily. "What happens if I survive 3 rotations?" Laughed again, louder this time. "This question shows the foolishness of your kind, but I will answer it because the answer does not matter. Our tradition says that any prey who survives 3 rotations earns their freedom. They become a worthy opponent and are released with honor." "Then I will survive 3 rotations." The old hunter stared at her for a long moment. His orange eyes searched her face for fear or madness. He found neither. "You are strange, human female, but strangeness will not save you. Sleep now. Tomorrow the hunt begins." He walked away, returning to the largest tent in the camp. Did not sleep. Instead, she spent the night studying everything around her. She memorized the paths the guards walked. She listened to the sounds of the forest and tried to identify patterns. She watched the moons move across the sky and calculated how long the nights lasted on this world. She thought about his injuries looked serious. Internal bleeding, probably. Maybe broken bones. He would slow her down. The smart thing would be to leave him behind and focus on her own survival. But had spent 3 years training people in the Alaskan wilderness. She had taught them that survival was not just about staying alive. It was about staying human, and humans did not abandon their own. The sky began to grow lighter. Orange sunlight filtered through the strange blue trees. The camp came alive with activity. Hunters sharpened their weapons and painted symbols on their scales. 2 guards lowered his cage to the ground and opened the door. They pushed her toward the center of the camp, where waited with her supplies. A pistol with 10 rounds. A simple knife with a leather handle. She saw other guards dragging from his cage. He was awake now but barely able to stand. His face was pale, and he winced with every step. Address them both. The hunt begins now. You will have 1 hour to run before we follow. Use your time wisely. Took the pistol and the knife. She walked to and put his arm over her shoulder to support his weight. He looked at her with pain-filled eyes. "Leave me," he whispered. "I will only slow you down." "Shut up, we are getting out of this together." Watch this exchange with interest. Loyalty, another weakness of your species. It will make killing you easier. Met his eyes. "We will see." She turned and helped walk into the forest. Behind them, the hunters began to howl with excitement. The hunt had begun. The trees swallowed them quickly, moved as fast as injuries allowed, supporting most of his weight. She scanned the forest as they walked, looking for anything useful. Water sources, shelter, defensible ground. She had 1 hour before 12 alien hunters came after them. 10 bullets, 1 knife, a dying partner, and a forest she knew nothing about. But Cole had survived worse odds in the Alaskan wilderness. She had taught hundreds of people that survival was not about strength or speed. It was about thinking clearly when everything wanted you dead. The thought they were hunting prey. They were about to learn how wrong they were, half carried through the alien forest for nearly an hour. The trees grew thick and tall around them, their blue bark glowing softly even in daylight. Strange sounds filled the air. Clicking insects, distant animal calls, the rustle of things moving through the undergrowth. Grew heavier with each step. His breathing was getting worse, and every few minutes he coughed up blood. Knew what that meant. Internal bleeding. Without medical help, he would not last long. She found what she was looking for near a rocky hill. A narrow cave opening, barely wide enough for a human to squeeze through. They were much larger than humans. They would have difficulty following her inside. She helped through the opening and laid him down on the cool stone floor. The cave went back about 30 feet and was dry and dark. A good place to hide. A good place to make a stand if necessary. Grabbed her arm, his grip was weak. "Listen to me. Save your strength." "No, listen." His eyes were clear despite the pain. "I am not going to make it, we both know that." "You do not know that. I was a medic before I transferred to security. I know what broken ribs feel like. I know what it means when you cough blood." He took a shaky breath. "Something inside me is torn. Maybe my liver, maybe my lung. It does not matter. Without surgery, I have hours, maybe less." Did not want to believe him, but she had seen enough injuries in her years of survival training to recognize the truth. Was dying. "What do you want me to do?" she asked quietly. "Survive." He reached for his belt and pulled out his ammunition clip. "Take my rounds. That gives you 20. Make them count." She took the ammunition and added it to her own. 20 bullets. Still not enough for 12 hunters. Leaned back against the cave wall. "I have a daughter back on 7. She is 6 years old. Her name is Emma. You will tell her yourself when we get home." He smiled sadly. "We both know that is not going to happen, but you can tell her something for me. Tell her that her daddy fought hard. Tell her he did not give up." "I will tell her. And make them pay. Make them understand that humans are not prey." She squeezed his hand. "I promise." Left resting and went back to the cave entrance. She had work to do and not much time, though would be tracking them soon. She used her knife to cut vines from the nearby trees. The vines were strong and flexible, perfect for what she needed. She collected sharp rocks from the hillside and began building traps. The first trap was simple, a tripwire made of vine that would release a pile of heavy rocks onto anyone who triggered it. The second was more clever, a covered pit lined with sharpened sticks, hidden under leaves and dirt right at the cave entrance. As she worked, she studied the forest around her. She watched small animals move through the trees and noticed which plants they ate. If the animals could eat them, humans probably could too. She found a small stream nearby and drank carefully, watching for any bad reactions. The water seemed safe. 3 hours passed. His breathing grew slower and more ragged. Then she heard something, footsteps, heavy ones coming closer. Pressed herself against the wall just inside the cave entrance. She held her knife ready and controlled her breathing. A shadow fell across the cave mouth. One of the hunters. He was young, his scales still bright green without any scars. He moved carelessly, pushing branches aside and making no effort to be quiet. This must be, she thought, the young one who wanted to prove himself. Bent down to look into the cave. He did not see the pit trap until his foot went through the covering of leaves. He roared in surprise and pain as the sharpened stick stabbed into his leg. Moved without thinking, she threw herself at the wounded hunter while he was off balance. Her knife found the soft gap between the scales on his neck, just below his jaw. She pushed the blade in deep. Tried to grab her with his 4 arms, but his movements were clumsy with pain and shock. He made a wet gurgling sound and fell forward, rolled out of the way as his massive body crashed to the ground. She stood over him, breathing hard, her first kill, the first to die on this hunt. She searched his body quickly. He carried a communication device that blinked with small lights. A curved ceremonial blade hung from his belt. She took both. The communication device crackled with voices. The other hunters were calling for, asking for his position. Turned the volume down and clipped the device to her belt. Now she could listen to their movements. She returned to the cave, was barely conscious now. "I heard fighting," he whispered. "One of them found us. He will not find anyone else." Smiled weakly. "That is my girl." He coughed again and more blood came up. His eyes were growing distant. "It is getting dark." The sun was still bright outside, knew what he meant. "It is okay," she said softly. "You can rest now." "Tell Emma." "I will tell her everything, I promise." Shaw died a few minutes later, closed his eyes and sat with him for a moment. She had known him for only 2 years, but he had been a good partner, reliable, kind. He deserved better than dying in a cave on an alien world. But grief was a luxury she could not afford right now. She took dog tags and put them in her pocket. Then she picked up her weapons and left the cave. The sun was starting to set. The first rotation was almost over. She had survived longer than any prey before her, according to, but she was not trying to just survive. She was going to hunt the hunters. The communication device crackled again. The Hadfound's body. Their voices sounded angry now and something else. Surprised. They had not expected to lose a hunter on the first day. Good, let them be surprised. Let them be angry. Angry hunters make mistakes. Moved deeper into the forest, using the streams to hide her trail. She kept the communication device close, listening to every word even though she did not understand the language yet. She would learn. She had time. The 2 moons rose again as night fell over the forest. found a hollow tree and climbed inside to rest. She did not sleep, but she let her body recover while her mind planned. 20 bullets, 2 knives, 1 communication device, and 11 hunters who still thought they were the predators. She touched dog tags in her pocket. "I will make them pay," she whispered into the darkness. "I promise." The second day began with the sound of hunters crashing through the forest. Listen to them from her hiding spot inside the hollow tree. They were not being quiet anymore. They were angry and wanted her to know they were coming. She counted their footsteps. At least 8 hunters were moving in a group. That meant 3 others were somewhere else, probably circling around to cut off her escape. Smiled, they were learning, but not fast enough. She waited until the main group passed her position, then slipped out of the tree and moved in the opposite direction. The communication device told her everything she needed to know. The hunters were heading toward the cave where had died. They expected to find her hiding there, waiting in fear. Instead, she spent the morning exploring the forest. She found more edible plants and memorized their locations. She discovered a series of hot springs that bubbled up from underground, filling the air with steam and heat. Most importantly, she found the base camp. It sat in a clearing about 2 miles from where she had started. The hunters had set up large tents and supply stations. A small shuttle was parked at the edge of the clearing, probably their connection to a larger ship in orbit. Watched the camp from the branches of a tall tree. Only 2 guards were present. The rest were out hunting her. She studied their patrol patterns and noted where they stored their food and weapons. She did not attack, not yet. Information was more valuable than a quick kill. As the sun reached its highest point, she heard excited chatter on the communication device. The hunters had found her cave. They had found S's body and the dead hunter. Their voices were loud with confusion and anger. One voice stood out, the elder. He was giving orders, trying to calm the others, but even he sounded worried. Spent the afternoon preparing. She built 3 more traps in different locations around the forest. She collected branches and made a simple spear. She practiced throwing rocks at targets until she could hit a small mark from 30 feet away. When evening came, she was ready. The lone hunter never saw her coming. He had separated from his partner to check a strange sound in the bushes. A sound had made by throwing a rock. She dropped from the tree above him, landing on his shoulders. Her knife found the gap in his scales before he could react. He fell without making a sound. 2 down, 10 remaining. She took his weapons and disappeared into the growing darkness. The communication device exploded with panicked voices as the hunters discovered another body. Ordered them to stay together. No more solo patrols. They would hunt as a pack from now on. Had expected this. Hunters who traveled in groups were harder to pick off, but they were also louder and easier to track. She could hear them coming from a great distance. The second night passed slowly, moved through the forest like a ghost, always staying 1 step ahead of the hunting pack. She led them through difficult terrain, over steep rocks and through thick bushes. They were bigger and stronger than her, but she was faster and more agile. Near midnight, she made her 3rd kill, a hunter who had fallen behind the group to catch his breath. He died before he could call for help. They were becoming afraid, could hear it in their voices on the communication device. They whispered about demons and spirits. They asked if perhaps they had made a mistake choosing humans as prey. Told them to be silent. Humans were weak creatures. This one was simply lucky. But heard doubt in his voice too. She spent the 3rd day testing their defenses. She would appear at the edge of their vision, just long enough for them to see her, then vanish before they could give chase. She left marks on trees near their camp, strange symbols that meant nothing but looked frightening. She stole food from their supplies while they slept. She whispered words in their own language that she had learned from listening to the communication device. Simple words, hunting words, death words. The psychological warfare was working. The hunters looked tired. Their movements were slow and clumsy. They jumped at every sound, every shadow. By the end of the second rotation, had killed 4 without firing a single bullet. She still had 20 rounds saved for when she really needed them. On the morning of the third day, did something unexpected. He contacted her directly through the communication device. "Human female, I know you are listening, speak to me." Considered staying silent, but she was curious about what he wanted. She pressed the button to respond. "I am here. You have killed 4 of my hunters. I must know how. We are apex predators. We have hunted 100 species across the galaxy. None have ever fought back like this." Thought about the question. "You want to know what I am?" "Yes. I am human, that is all." That is not an answer. Humans are soft, weak. You have no natural weapons. How are you doing this? Crouched in the branches of a tall tree, watching the morning sun rise over the alien forest. Below her, she could see 3 hunters searching for her trail. "My species evolved on a dangerous world," she said quietly. "We were not the fastest or the strongest. Everything around us wanted to kill us. Big cats, wolves, bears, snakes. Even the weather tried to kill us." "Then how did you survive?" "We learned to think. We learned to plan. We learned to use the world around us as a weapon." She paused. "And we learned something else, something more important." "What?" "We learned to never give up, ever. No matter how bad things get, no matter how much pain we feel, we keep fighting until we win or until we die." She let the words sink in. "Your people gave me 10 rounds and a knife and thought I was helpless. You did not understand that humans do not need weapons to be dangerous. Weapons just make us more efficient." There was silence on the communication device for a long moment. "You are not prey," said finally. "I see that now." "No, I am not." "Then what are you?" Watched the hunters below her stumble through the underbrush, oblivious to her presence. She thought about dying in that cold cave. She thought about his daughter Emma, waiting for a father who would never come home. "I am what happens when you threaten the wrong species," she said. "I am the reason your ancestors wrote warnings about hunting humans, and I am not finished yet." She turned off the communication device and began planning her next attack. The third rotation was almost complete. By law, she had nearly earned her freedom. But freedom was not enough, not anymore. She wanted them to remember this hunt forever. She wanted them to fear humans for generations, and she wanted Shaw avenged. 8 hunters remained, 20 bullets, 2 knives, and 1 very angry human. The real hunt was about to begin. Rain came on the third day. Heavy drops fell from dark clouds, turning the forest floor into mud and washing away all trails. Thunder echoed across the sky, so loud it shook the trees. Loved the rain. She moved through the storm like she was part of it. The thunder covered her footsteps. The rain washed away her scent. The mud hid her tracks. For hunting in these conditions was nearly impossible. For it was perfect. She had spent days learning this forest. She knew every hiding spot, every path, every weakness in the terrain. The knew nothing. They stumbled through the rain, blind and frustrated, while she watched from the shadows. But when she reached their base camp, she found something that made her heart sink. A second shuttle had landed during the night. 4 more hunters were unloading heavy equipment and weapons. They were not carrying ceremonial blades anymore. They had plasma rifles and body armor. Stood in the center of the camp, shouting orders. The hunt had changed. This was no longer a sport. It was a mission to kill her at any cost. Counted the enemies. 8 survivors from the original pack plus 4 reinforcements. 12 hunters total, all of them now armed with military weapons. They had abandoned their traditions because she had humiliated them. She should have felt afraid. Instead, she felt something like respect. They had finally started taking her seriously. She retreated into the forest to think. Her original plan needed to change. She could not fight 12 armored hunters with plasma rifles, not directly. She needed to be smarter. The rain continued all morning. Used the time to prepare new traps and to think about what she knew. They had better weapons now, but they still had weaknesses. Their thermal vision could not see through the steam from the hot springs. Their heavy bodies made them slow in the thick mud. Their communication devices worked on a frequency she could now understand well enough to follow their movements. And most importantly, they were scared. Scared hunters made mistakes. She waited until afternoon, when the rain slowed to a light drizzle. Then she began her attack. The first shot was perfect. A single bullet through the gap in a hunter's helmet, right where the armor was weakest. He dropped without a sound. The other hunters scattered, firing their plasma rifles wildly into the trees, but was already gone, moving through the undergrowth faster than they could follow. She used the terrain against them. She led a group of 4 hunters into a muddy valley where their heavy bodies sank up to their knees. While they struggled to move, she dropped rocks on them from the cliff above. 2 more died. The others retreated in panic. She lured another hunter into a trap near the hot springs. The steam blinded his thermal vision, and by the time he realized she was behind him, it was too late. 9 dead now, only 3 hunters remained. Was wounded too. A plasma shot had grazed her left arm, burning through her sleeve and leaving an ugly mark. Her body was exhausted from 3 days of constant movement. She had eaten little and slept less. But she could not stop, not yet. The communication device crackled. His voice came through, tired and angry. "Human, I wish to speak with you." "Press the button, I am listening." "You have destroyed my hunting pack, the finest warriors of my clan, dead at the hands of a soft, clawless human female." He paused. "I did not believe it was possible. And now I understand why the old texts warned us about your species. We thought we were apex predators. We thought nothing in the galaxy could challenge us." His voice grew quiet. "We were wrong." Crouched behind a fallen tree, watching the rain drip from the leaves. "What do you want?" "I want to know why. You have survived 3 rotations. By our law, you have earned your freedom. You could leave right now and we would not stop you, but you keep fighting, you keep killing. Why?" Thought about again. His face in those final moments, his request to tell his daughter about him. "You killed my partner," she said. "His name was Shaw, he had a daughter. He died from injuries in the crash. We did not kill him. You captured us, you put us in cages, you made us run for your entertainment. He would be alive right now if you had left us alone." Her voice was cold. "That makes you responsible." Was silent for a moment. "I see, this is vengeance." "Yes." "Then you understand us better than I thought. Vengeance is sacred to it is the duty of the living to honor the dead." "Then you understand why I cannot stop." "I do," made a sound that might have been a sigh. "I also understand that you have won, human. My pack is destroyed. My pride is ruined. The stories of this hunt will spread across space, and my clan will never recover from the shame." "Good. But I cannot let you leave. You must understand this. If you escape and tell other humans what happened here, they will lose their fear of us. Other species will hear that they can be beaten. Our empire will crumble." Almost laughed. "So even now you will not surrender." "Surrender is not in our nature. I have 2 hunters left. We will face you in battle 3 against 1. If we win, we will destroy all evidence of this hunt. If you win, you will have your complete vengeance. And if I just wait until more of your ships arrive?" "They will not come. I sent a message to my people an hour ago. I told them this hunt was a success and that we need no assistance. I will not shame my clan further by asking for help against a single human." Processed this information, was offering her a final battle, a chance to finish what she started. She looked at her pistol, 15 bullets remaining. Her wounds ached and her muscles burned with fatigue. But she was not finished, not until every one of them was dead. "Where?" she asked. "The clearing where our shuttles landed, 1 hour. I will be there." She turned off the communication device and began preparing. She checked her weapons and cleaned the blood from her knife. She tied strips of cloth around her wounds to slow the bleeding. The rain had stopped. The clouds were breaking apart, letting silver moonlight filter through the trees. 1 hour until the final battle, 3 hunters against 1 human. They still thought they had a chance. They still believed that their size and strength and technology would save them. They were wrong. Cole had survived 3 days in an alien jungle. She had killed 9 of the galaxy's deadliest hunters using nothing but her mind and her will. She had made apex predators afraid. Now it was time to finish the hunt. She moved through the darkening forest toward the clearing. Each step brought her closer to the final confrontation. Each breath reminded her why she was doing this. For Emma, for every human who would never have to fear being prey. They wanted a battle. She would give them something they would never forget. The clearing was quiet when arrived. Both moons hung full in the sky, casting silver light over the shuttles and the empty tents. The bodies of the she had killed earlier had been removed. Only dark stains on the ground showed where they had fallen. Stood in the center of the clearing with his 2 remaining hunters. They had removed their armor and held only their ceremonial blades. A final battle in the traditional way. Stepped out of the trees. Her clothes were torn and stained with mud and blood. Her left arm hung at her side, still burning from the plasma wound. But her eyes were steady and clear. Studied her for a long moment. "You came. I said I would. You could have run. You could have hidden until rescue came. We both know you have been sending a signal from your crashed shuttle." Nodded. A rescue team would arrive soon, perhaps within hours. She could have waited safely and let the colonial marines deal with the remaining hunters. But that was not why she had come to this moon. "You killed Shaw," she said. "You hunted us like animals. You need to understand what that means." "I am beginning to understand," raised his blade. "But understanding does not change what must happen now. I cannot let you leave alive." The first hunter attacked without warning. He was fast for his size, his blade cutting through the air towards neck. She ducked under the swing and drove her knife into his stomach, finding the gap between his scales. He stumbled back, clutching the wound. Did not give him time to recover. She pulled her pistol and fired 2 shots into his chest. He fell and did not move again. The second hunter roared and charged. This one was younger and angrier, his attacks wild and powerful. Could not match his strength, so she did not try. She moved like water flowing around his strikes, letting his own momentum work against him. He swung his blade in a wide arc. She stepped inside his reach and slashed her knife across his arm. He swung again. She ducked and cut his leg. Each wound was small, but they added up. The young hunter began to slow. Blood dripped from a dozen cuts across his body. His movements became clumsy with pain and exhaustion. Waited for her moment. When he overextended on a desperate thrust, she stepped to his side and drove her knife into his throat. He made a wet choking sound and collapsed. Only remained. The old hunter had watched the fight without moving. Now he stepped forward, his ceremonial blade gleaming in the moonlight. "You fight well," he said, "better than any prey I have ever hunted." "I am not prey." "No, you are something else entirely." He raised his blade in a formal salute. "Let us finish this." Was different from the others. He did not charge blindly or rely on strength alone. He moved with careful precision, testing her defenses, probing for weaknesses. Met him strike for strike. Her knife was shorter than his blade, which meant she had to stay close. His forearms gave him an advantage in grappling, so she could not let him grab her. They circled each other in the silver moonlight. Their blades clashed again and again. Both of them were wounded. Both of them were tired, but neither would surrender. Landed a hit, his blade cutting across her ribs, gasped in pain but kept moving. She sliced his arm in return, opening a deep wound that made him hiss. "Why do you fight so hard?" he asked between strikes. "Your partner is already dead. Nothing you do will bring him back." "I know." "Then why?" Blocked another attack and stepped back to catch her breath. "Because of Emma." "Who is Emma?" "Daughter. She is 6 years old. She is waiting for her father to come home." Eyes were hard. "He will never come home because of you. She will grow up without a father because you wanted sport." Paused, something flickered in his orange eyes. "I did not know he had a child." "Would it have mattered?" The old hunter did not answer. Attacked, she moved faster than she had before, pushing through her exhaustion and pain. Her knife found gaps in his defenses that had not been there a moment ago. Fell back, surprised by her sudden fury. He tried to counterattack, but she was already moving, already cutting, already making him bleed. She did not fight like a human anymore. She fought like the thing humans became when everything they loved was threatened. She fought like a mother protecting her children, like a soldier defending her home, like a survivor who refused to die. Stumbled, his blade dropped from his wounded hand. He fell to his knees, bleeding from wounds across his entire body. Stood over him, her knife at his throat. Her breathing was heavy. Her body screamed with pain, but she had won. "Finish it," said. "I have been beaten. There is no shame in dying to a worthy enemy." Looked down at him. This creature had destroyed her life, had killed, had made her into something she barely recognized. Part of her wanted to kill him slowly, to make him suffer the way she had suffered. But that was not who she was. She pressed the knife harder against his scales. "You will go back to your people. You will tell them what happened here. You will tell them that humans are not prey. Not now. Not ever. You are sparing my life. I am giving you a purpose. You wanted to understand what humans are. Now you know. Spread that understanding to every corner of the galaxy." Stared at her for a long moment. Then he lowered his head in submission. "I will do as you say." A rumble filled the air. Looked up to see a human shuttle descending through the clouds. The rescue team had arrived. She stepped back from and watched the shuttle land. Colonial Marines poured out, their weapons raised. They stopped when they saw the scene before them. One human woman, covered in blood and wounds, standing over the kneeling leader of a hunting pack. Bodies scattered across the clearing. The evidence of a battle unlike anything they had ever seen. A Marine officer approached her carefully. "Ma'am, are you Cole?" "Yes." "What happened here?" Looked at, then at the bodies, then at the knife still in her hand. "They wanted to hunt humans," she said simply. "They learned why that was a mistake." 3 months later, a message spread through space. The hunting clans held a council for the first time in many generations. They discussed the events on the forest moon and the human female who had destroyed an elite hunting pack. By unanimous vote, humanity was added to the forbidden prey list. Only 2 other species in history had earned that distinction. Cole returned to 7. She visited the home of Shaw's family. She held his daughter Emma and told her that her father had been brave, that he had fought hard, that he had never given up. She did not tell the girl about the blood or the death or the hunt. Some things were not for children to know. On her last night on the colony, stood at her window and watched the twin suns set. She still carried the ceremonial blade she had taken from, a reminder that the galaxy was full of creatures who saw humanity as weak. She knew better now. Humanity was not the apex predator. Apex predators sat at the top of their food chain with nothing to fear. Humans were something different, something that had crawled up from the bottom, fighting for every inch, something that never stopped, never surrendered, never forgot. Let the spread the word. Let every species in the galaxy hear what happened when they chose the wrong target. Humans were not prey. Humans were a promise that no matter how dark things got, no matter how powerful the enemy, they would keep fighting until the very end. Cole had made that promise to Shaw on an alien moon far from home. She had kept it,